It's a couple of months past due, but I do owe Samsung an apology, so let's talk about it. What's up everyone, I'm Jeff from Graves Media, and today we're going to talk about why I ditched the Pixel 7 Pro in just over 2 weeks. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button to catch my future videos, and without further ado, let's get into it. If you caught my unboxing video for the Pixel 7 Pro, I started off by digging on Samsung for stripping some of my most coveted features from past phones, and their overall lack of recent innovation. I'll link that video here if you're interested in checking it out. A lot of the things I gushed about in the Pixel unboxing video were based on Google claims and info from their I/O event. However, just a little over 2 weeks later, I had already made the decision to ditch my Pixel and go back to my S21 Ultra. Then came the Samsung Unpacked event, and here I was considering the S23 Ultra, so I felt it was pretty important to reflect a bit as to why I actually sent the Pixel back to avoid a similar cycle. Spoiler alert, I ended up pre-ordering it, it's here, and I'm gonna unbox that too in a future video. Though I still don't have a lot of negative things to say about the actual hardware or appearance, there were quite a few user experience things that became immediately irritating to me. I wanna share where I think some improvements are needed. In the interest of balance, we'll do this as a pros and cons list, so features I like on the left of the screen and things I didn't like on the right of the screen. We'll start with the likes in no particular order. Number one is the exterior design of the phone. I really like the camera bar on the back, and it just has a premium look and deviation from the typical camera clusters we see on the Galaxy and iPhone lineups. I saw many of these scratched up after a week of what users were calling normal use, but I didn't experience any of that. Number two is the capabilities unlocked thanks to the Tensor G2 core. Photo Unblur was amazing. It was actually able to clean up some of my old photos taken with the earliest gen iPhones. The night photos were lightning fast, looked great, and speech to text had never been faster. All that being said, it's still kind of a win for Samsung as they're who actually makes the Tensor G2 for Google. Number three is the screen. Not only is the 6.7-inch QHD screen beautiful and smooth, it's extremely responsive. I guess this is a pro for both software and hardware, but swiping around was incredibly fast. I'm sure part of that is due to being a new phone fresh out of the box, but even after I had it fully decked out with all my third-party apps, it continued to perform well. Number four is the camera. The camera on the Pixel 7 Pro really is among the industry best. Other cameras have very comparable features, but the color recreation on the Pixel is next level. Considering the camera is probably why 90% of people upgrade their phones today, it's not a bad area of focus for Google. Area of focus? Oh my god, I'm making camera puns now. Alright, let's talk about what I didn't like. Number one is battery life. Maybe I was playing with my new phone too much and I don't have any hard numbers for you, but I found myself needing to charge it way earlier in the day than I felt like I should have. Whenever I'm in the car, it's plugged in using Android Auto while charging, so I rarely drop to levels I worry about. However, the battery noticeably drained faster with in-hand use. Number two is the integration with Google Home devices. Our whole house is pretty much controlled through Google Home. You would think that having a Google phone would unlock more integration, but it doesn't and actually feels a bit clunky. The app experience was the same, so I stuck to that. Though I'm not a huge fan of Bixby, I do think Samsung does a great job of integrating across all of their devices. For example, when my Samsung oven finishes preheating for my pizza rolls, it alerts me on my phone and watch even if I'm in the other room. This is arguably the best thing about Apple's ecosystem as well, and all you hear anyone talk about. Number three is the under glass fingerprint reader. It's not horrible, but it's not great. If this is your first phone with an in-display fingerprint reader, it will likely be a major upgrade. Coming from a Samsung, it feels like theirs is much more refined and consistent. Google said many of the issues people were experiencing were caused by third-party screen protectors, but how could a company this large not account for something so common in their testing? Number four is stock Android. Now, I'm probably going to get some hate for this, but stock Android or whatever version was on this phone has flaws. I could probably do an entire video on all the things Samsung's One UI has fixed, but I'll keep it short. When I finally joined the Android side, it was because I wanted options and more control over my phone. While I appreciate not being forced into gestures, because they mostly don't make sense for my style of navigating, but good God, could you at least let me change the order of the on-screen 3-button layout? Why on earth is the back button on the left so far out of reach of my thumb? Samsung lets you change the order, and it feels like a silly thing to not include in stock Android. The top pull-down menu was another gripe. As someone who was switching from a completely different phone and UI, I found myself needing to go into settings a lot. To me, it was tedious to pull down the top menu, pull down again to get the additional content, then click settings all the way at the bottom. And finally, the app grid layout. I've become quite accustomed to my 5x6 grid on my Samsung, while only a 5x5 being available by stock on the Pixel. They have the space for it, but they seem to be pushing the suggested apps feature, which I didn't like either. Why are you holding my screen real estate hostage? I understand there are third-party apps to alleviate this burden, but that is not the point here. I could nitpick this all day as a former user experience software tester. I guess that never really leaves you. Anyway, this is why I owe Samsung an apology. Though I don't take back any of my comments about innovation, I now realize how much I took Samsung's One UI for granted. I guess I just didn't know all the ways they had already fixed stock Android. Luckily, I could easily switch back to my S21 and all was right in the world. So what do you think? Am I a Samsung stan? Are these trivial things that don't bother you? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to catch the unboxing of the S23 Ultra and the Galaxy Buds Pro 2.